All right, Boss's Office, Episode 8, Building Tribes, Not Just Companies. Welcome back to the Boss's Office, because it's lonely at the top. Today's episode is going to be a really good one because we're diving into a side of business that a lot of people hear about, but very few actually understand. Buying companies, scaling businesses, leadership, culture, partnerships, private equity. But this isn't some Wall Street suit conversation. Today, I've got Jordan Inman and James Maxwell from Tribe Equity Partners in the studio. These guys are veterans, entrepreneurs, operators, and investors who are building businesses with a people-first mindset. And honestly, that's rare these days. We're going to talk about what makes a company worth buying, how business owners prepare for exit, what happens after an acquisition, leadership under pressure, building teams, preserving culture, and why the people side of business matters more than the spreadsheets. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Excited. All right, guys, let's start simple. What exactly is Tribe Equity Partners?
So Tribe Equity Partners, by definition, is an alternative micro private equity company. I think for James and I, one thing that we'll just say right up front is equity to us, or private equity, kind of has a negative connotation. Because I think a lot of people think of private equity and they think of these huge swaths of money coming in and taking over businesses and slashing headcounts and everything that goes along with that. Where we stand, everything that we're doing is solely us. We have no outside investors. It's all the cash that we've raised internally. And so, we're not like this private equity company that's coming in and taking over companies, and by no means are we doing that. We are slowly acquiring companies. We've evolved into investing in others doing exactly what we've done. So we're partnered with people who are going out and finding their own companies at this point, and helping them out financially, but even more than financially, just with all of our experience and our resources. So we differentiate just a little bit from a typical, I think, like a mega private equity company that you might think of.
Gotcha. How'd you guys get your start?
I would say we could probably trace everything back to our time in the military.
Okay.
And transitioning from the military, as you can imagine, is kind of a big deal, right?
Sure.
Jordan and I, from a very young age, joined the service, spent most of our adult lives doing that, and thinking about, what am I going to do when I leave the service? How do I transition back to the civilian world? What kind of skills do I have that would be relatable on the civilian side? As much as I want to shoot guns and jump out of planes and blow stuff up for a living, there's not a lot of jobs in Bend, Oregon that allow for that.
The pay scale is probably not as high here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, parts of the world.
What did I enjoy about my time in the service? I loved being on a small team. I loved working with high performers. I loved making decisions that had an impact. And the light bulb went off. Small business ownership is the path. Right?
Gotcha.
So operating on a small team in the service to now operating on a small team on the outside world. So we got our start by buying our first company. And to be honest with you, at the time, there was no grand strategy.
Okay.
This was about 5 years ago, by the way.
Gotcha.
We bought our first company. Jordan and I burned the ships. We said, let's do this. We bought that. That went really well. We realized kind of where our skill set lied. And we realized that maybe it wasn't being in the day-to-day kind of operator seat of that small business. So we decided to do it again. And in 2024, we bought our second company. And that was kind of the genesis of Tribe. And now here we are a couple of years after that.
You said, hey, we might have some magic in this. Like, this might actually get some legs to it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you talk operator in investing, right? So you're really a micro private equity firm between the two of you. Now, are those two companies still under your leadership, or have you since kind of parlayed and moved on and sold, or how does that look?
Yeah, so we still have both of our first two companies today.
Okay.
They've both been very successful up to this point. And it's been an interesting journey. We both believe that, when you acquire a company, there is a fair amount of hands-on operation. You got to step in, you got to get dirty, you got to know the company. We don't really believe in kind of a playbook of buying a company and having somebody else just jump in there and operate it. So we've spent plenty of time in both of our companies. We'll jump in and out depending on, what the needs are. But it really takes, about a year is what we've kind of experienced, 6 months to a year of us physically getting in there and operating it, learning the business. And that allows us to, one, know the business, but also identify who might be a good replacement and actually be a better operator than we are. Because, for example, we own a lumber remanufacturing company, zero experience in manufacturing, zero experience in lumber. There are people out there, like our GM out there now, he's got 3 decades of experience.
Gotcha.
He's going to run that company hands down better than anything that James and I can do. But just getting in the seat and understanding the business and kind of cutting our teeth, it really allows us to kind of set that business up for success. We can then remove ourselves and we can focus on kind of bigger picture, visionary type stuff. And it's really, it's been a really rewarding process thus far.
Most people think Shark Tank of some sort, right? Hey, we're going to come invest in your company. We're going to buy your company and then we're going to flip it for a profit. And it doesn't sound like you guys do that. It sounds like you really get in, you get your hands dirty, and then you look for ways to make, I'm guessing you guys probably look for ways to make efficiencies. How can we run this more profitably? We talked about in episode 2 about EBITDA, right? I'm sure you guys probably look at all of those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
To date, every company, when we've gone in, we have not actually lost any headcount.
Okay.
In kind of how we're set up, James and I don't need to take paychecks. We don't need to take a big salary. We have enough kind of boats out there right now where we can really reinvest all the cash back into these businesses. And that allows us to, when we come in and do these things, to reinvest back to the people who are actually there. And so what we've experienced is quite the opposite. We've actually been able to give pay raises. We're actually right now we're going through another round of kind of benefits, increasing benefits at the companies. And so we're actually able to kind of turbocharge the companies without doing some of the typical things you would see in a larger private equity company. We've maintained the branding from the original owners. That's important to us. Maintain that culture, and we can spend our time elevating the people who are already there. And it's really been a win-win for everybody. The sellers, it's been a win for us, and it's been a win for the employees. And we have, no intention of flipping businesses. We're here for a very long haul. Our kids come here or live here. We want to be a part of the community and be leaders in the community. And so we kind of, this is a long-term play, not some quick flip.
A big differentiator, Jordan already hit it, but you're looking at Tribe Equity Partners.
Right.
It's us too. Typical private equity funds have dozens, if not hundreds of limited partners.
Yeah. Hey, I saw you guys made a good investment there. Why don't you take some of my money? Right. And then you got another table, and then you got another seat at the table.
Yep.
Trying to guide the ship. Right.
And you think about the incentives of the private equity firm, they report to the shareholders.
Sure.
They owe the shareholders a return on a defined period of time. Jordan and I, the way we operate, we don't have to worry about that. The 2 decision makers are right here. So we can think about what's best for the company, what's best for the long-term health of these businesses. Whereas the private equity firms, the traditional ones, are probably incentivized a little bit differently and, for better or for worse, but that's just not the model that we run. And I know that the model we run is in the best interest of the companies as well.
Right. Being small also means that you can be nimble. And that's one thing I've noticed about our business. I want to touch on one thing that Jordan was talking about, where you guys aren't really needing to take a paycheck at this point. And this is one thing that I think a lot of people forget. When you go into business for yourself, right, and you have that W-2 mindset, when you guys were both in the service, you were getting paid monthly, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you knew what money was coming in, you knew what you could budget, and that's how you lived your life. And then at the end of the year, you got a W-2 or you got or 1099, and you knew I made X amount this year. And when you switch that mindset to being self-employed, right, running a business, owning multiple businesses, it's more about creating the equity and the value and the growth of that company. And I'll give you an example. I make maybe a third of what I used to make, but I have a lot more equity and I have a lot more control
Yeah.
over owning my own
Yep.
business.
Way more valuable.
And it took
Yeah.
me so long to change that mindset. How did your mindset change when you went from, hey man, I know I've got a check coming every month for a few $1,000, and now all of a sudden, wait, when do I get paid?
Yeah. It's, and this is the curse of the W-2 employee, right?
Yeah.
They believe that they have job security, income security. They believe that those 2 paychecks every month or 1 paycheck every month is safe. It's low risk for them. I think we see it the opposite now.
Yeah.
There's nothing more high risk than that, because I mean, we all know people who've been laid off. Companies have gone through rounds of terminations.
Yeah.
So within a moment's notice, all that could be gone. Jordan and I, the position we're in, some of those W-2 employees might think what we're doing is risky, right? Because we've put all our chips on the table to make this happen, but at least we're the ones in control,
Right.
and we're building that equity that, as you said, you know, it's more valuable than the paycheck. So we think what we're doing is less risky than maybe we even previously believed.
Yeah, it really took me, I did not have an easy transition. My growing pains were really painful. And I
Yeah.
was talking to my CPA, like, how come I'm not,
Yeah.
why is it showing this? And he's like, man, I mean, you know, you think about it. I saw this on Instagram the other day. And someone was like, you know, a guy driving a Ferrari probably thinks that that's a flex. But you know what a real flex is? Having 20 employees. That's a flex.
Yeah.
Right. It's more about that. And it's such a shift in the mindset. You know, I was a W-2 employee for 30 plus years before I finally decided to take that leap and take that risk. And it's a big risk.
Yep.
But there's nothing more fulfilling. And knowing that, you know what, I've got control of the levers.
Yep.
And now I think what concerns me more is, what if I had to lay someone off? Not more of like, I know I'm going to be fine. I feel a lot more comfortable in the driver's seat than I did as a passenger.
Yep.
But now I've got those passengers that are depending on me, right? You've got yours that are depending on Tribe to make sound financial decisions for their future.
Yeah.
You know?
Let me ask you this. One thing that we experience is that as a business owner and doing what we're doing, there's so many highs and lows. You know, it's been a roller coaster, and the thing that we kind of lean on is each other. So we have a partnership, and for us, you know, when I'm hitting a low point, James is there to kind of sharing that low point with me, so it doesn't feel quite as bad. When we hit these high points and have these huge successes, it's also better because I have somebody to share it with. And, you know, oftentimes we're serving different roles depending on what we're doing. James will be in Overwatch. If I'm down in the trenches, you know, taking grenades, James is able to see clearly and really help me out and help me through those stressful periods. Who do you lean on as a business owner going through some of these ups and downs? Because, you know, we all know how difficult that is.
Right. You know, I'm really glad that I'm not a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
Because I do have someone to lean on, and that's Rocky. And Rocky's actually playing a golf tournament today, so he wasn't able to join us.
Awesome.
He's been a co-host since about episode 3 or 4. But if you've ever read the book Rocket Fuel, and if you haven't, I urge you to read it. You've got a visionary, and every visionary needs an integrator. And you have some which are really hybrids, which are visionaries and integrators, right? And so I am more visionary and less integrator, and Rocky is more integrator and less visionary, right? And so, I mean, I want to take a vacation. I've got him I can lean on. You know, I have all these wild, crazy ideas. I need someone to filter through them. I'm down. I go into Rocky's office. I mean, I swear half of it is therapeutic, right? I go, man, I'm getting the shit kicked out of me mentally. I don't help me get unstuck. Yeah. Right. And I'm usually like the optimist. I'm always amped up, ready to go. Always positive. But there are times when I'm not positive, where I'm down in the trenches, right? I'm taking grenades. I love that analogy, because I do feel like there are times when I'm taking grenades. And I go in and I talk to Rocky, and he talks me off the ledge. Yeah. And Rocky's so even keeled that when he gets off the ledge, he doesn't really get off the ledge that much, but I just, I say a couple of things, I share some good positive energy with him, and he's right back up
Yeah.
out, I mean, he's more in like a roadside ditch than he is in a trench. So when you guys are talking and investing in different businesses, I mean, let's say that I own a business,
Mhm.
right? And I need some seed money, or I need some capital, or let's just say like a food truck, right?
Mhm.
Hey, I'm a really good cook. I can sell this food. I know that people love it. Everybody says how much they love my food. I have no idea what I'm doing in business. Like, how does that conversation begin when they come to you and they say, "Hey, look, I've got a widget. I have
Mhm.
no idea how to get it to market." Right?
Yeah.
Is that where you guys come in?
I would say no.
Okay.
That's not really our wheelhouse.
Right.
Even the word investor is something that we don't really identify with
Okay.
that label. The two companies that we've bought outright,
Mm-hmm.
100% control. And the point there is we're buying an established, enduringly profitable business that's been around for decades. Both businesses we bought were 25 years old, if not more, still owned by the founder. And this is a person that wants to retire.
Right.
And they've built this wonderful baby of theirs, and they care about who they transition it to.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just looking for money or investment. That's not us.
Right.
We see ourselves as the folks who are going to take what they've built and carry it into the future on their behalf.
Gotcha.
We've got incredible relationships with the sellers of the businesses that we've bought.
Mm-hmm.
We're still in touch with them. Once a week, we're calling them, texting them. They're living their best lives now as retired former business owners,
Mm-hmm.
and they still care about the business. They call to check in, see how certain employees are doing, how things are going, and it's such an honor to be able to do that for them.
Wow.
And help their business succeed. So that's what we do. We don't really provide seed capital or any kind of partial equity type investments.
You want the whole enchilada.
We do, but
All
we
right.
we do have the second pillar of kind of what we're doing is the investment. I'll use that word here.
Right.
The investment in other folks who are out there buying these businesses all over the country. So right now, for instance, we're partnered with either 4 or 5 veterans.
Mm-hmm.
They all happen to be veterans. We're not exclusive to veterans. It just happens to be that way. But we're partnered
Birds
with
of a
them.
feather.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're out there on the hunt to buy their own business, kind of like the way we have.
Mm-hmm.
And we are backing them with capital so that they can go and do that. So that's the second kind of pillar of what Tribe is up to these days.
And then how do you see the return on that investment?
Yeah, I mean, that's, we will be in those situations, minority equity holders of those
Right.
businesses forever,
Mm-hmm.
unless they sell the business down the line or whatever. But the return, generally will be very good. Because what makes us, I think, unique in that space is we're not just offering them capital so they can go acquire a business.
Right.
We're jumping in as partners. We're leveraging our expertise, our experience, and we are going to do everything in our power to make sure that they succeed. So we have a little bit of influence on the return on our investment. It's not just, here's some capital.
Not just silent partners.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
We get to kind of pull some levers ourselves, help these folks out, and it's a win-win. It's always a win-win.
I have a partner just like that who owns a minority stake in my company.
Yep.
And who I go to when I need counsel on things, on big business decisions that are way above my pay grade and above my skill set. And also he's turned out to be a really good referral partner.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, I know what's going to help my investment succeed, and that's bringing more business to the business.
Yeah.
Right. And then, whereas if you've got silent partners or like, okay, I'll take a gamble on you. Here's $100,000, turn it into 2 or 3 for me.
Yeah.
Right. Or give me a quarterly return. So how do you guys work together? Like, give me kind of a day in the life of of who does what, or do you guys just, is there an area that one of you is a little bit more of an expert or attuned to? Like for me, I'm just going to give you an example. I absolutely hate Excel spreadsheets, and they're Rocky's favorites. And he's not here to defend himself because I would talk so much smack about all the Excel data that he has and all the KPIs that he measures. I hate that stuff, man. I love doing the sales and, you know, bring in the cash, and then you figure out how we're going to spend it.
Jordan's the brains and the beauty of the operation.
That's trouble.
Yeah, I just show up.
That's trouble.
Fly fish.
All right.
Trouble.
He's the smart man in the room.
Yeah. I've always seen us as I think a lot of people would say if you're going to go into business and have a partner, you should have skill sets that offset each other. I think that's a pretty popular opinion. James and I are actually very similar. I think we're almost the same, to be honest with you. And so the way I see us is we're kind of like two twin turbojet props on one boat. We can really filter in, like we can go in and out of pretty much any situation that we can come across. And really what we do is we support each other. It's normally one person jumping on a project or a problem with the other person in Overwatch. And that allows us to kind of, you know, pick and choose and flex. And, you know, one person's kind of in the trenches and one's in Overwatch. And depending on what the situation is or who was up last or, you know, who wants to jump on it, we do just kind of, we play pickup basketball and we flex really well. And we're, you know, in and out of all these situations. And it's worked really, really well up to this point. So
yeah, when you work with someone long enough, you start to know how they're thinking and what their move is. So like professional basketball players can play pickup basketball. Right. Because, you know, LeBron James's teammates know exactly probably where he's going to go next, and they can get in position to support him. And that's what we do. We don't really run designed plays.
Yeah.
Like if I see him getting sucked into this problem, I'm going to move myself over here, you know, to be an Overwatch or the next point of friction or whatever. And I think we've gotten good at reading and reacting off each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. So what's next for you guys? Do you have the next company that you're working on, either acquiring or in negotiations? You know, I'm not asking for anything confidential, but tell me more about how that looks. Like, how do you figure out your target company that you want to acquire? Talk to me about how you guys look at buying other companies.
So I'll tell you right now, the focus is not necessarily a target company. It's more of a target individual who's looking for a company. And the people we typically are partnering with, I would say they have two attributes about them that kind of stand out. One is they're all in on becoming a CEO. So, you know, they're not kind of halfway searching for a business. They're not kind of halfway, I think I want to do this and I'll do it in my spare time. These people have burned the bridges. They've, you know, quit their jobs. They're conducting full-time searches right now. They're meeting people real time. So that's one. They're all in on this one idea of becoming a CEO themselves. And then the second thing is the people we partner with have a history of resiliency. So every single person that we're talking to, I mean, we're talking, most of these guys are special operations guys in the military with MBAs who have experienced significant challenges in their life. And win, lose, or draw, they're continuing to push forward. So I think that's what's needed in order to be a CEO. I think you got to be all in, and then you know, there are going to be ups and downs, and it is challenging. And so those are the people that we've partnered with. The types of businesses that they're looking for, you know, it's fairly standard. Everybody's got their own kind of unique spin on what they're looking for, but call it $1 million in EBITDA. Companies that are kind of boring and have been around for decades, well-established companies. And the most important part to us when you buy a company or even look at a company, most people think, I got to look at the financials, and the financials got to make sense in the industry. And there's 1,000 things that people talk about. But to us, the single greatest factor in any business is the character of the owner. Because the character of the owner, it's guaranteed that has percolated through that business. and that business takes shape and it mimics whoever that owner is. And so if you have an owner who maybe you don't kind of trust in the initial meetings, something doesn't feel right, maybe has some character flaws, what we've seen is that there's probably some skeletons in the closet in that business as well. And then on the flip side, some of the people we've talked to, even, the businesses we've bought, the owners have been the most stand-up individuals, high character, would do anything to make sure that you succeed. Just the most amazing people, and they've built amazing businesses that, have withstood the test of time. And it's our job to shepherd those into the next chapter and make sure they continue to do well.
I mean, how do you find them? They're not just standing outside with the for sale sign.
I wish they were.
Yeah.
Is there some dialing for dollars that you guys have to do, or a lot of word of mouth?
I think, at this point, Central Oregon's small enough.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're kind of plugged in here, you're 1 degree of separation from most everybody in this town. I think, Jordan and I, owning 2 businesses in Central Oregon, we have a track record, and that track record, I think, puts sellers at ease that, okay, these guys can do this. They've done it before, and they're not going to just yank my chain. So at this point, obviously, if there's interesting opportunities out there, we'll kind of directly outreach. But, we get inquiries direct to us, like, hey, heard about you guys, heard this is what you guys do. Do you want to take a look? And, but it's a blend. Some are for sale. Some, we directly target, and some kind of find us.
Right. I was yesterday on a tour bus with 80 other people. The EDCO, Economic Development of Central Oregon, had the Made in Bend tour.
Yep. Oh, cool.
Yesterday. Yeah. And so we got to see, one business had been originated back in 1990, Breedlove Guitars, right? Yep. And they built up and they built a name for themselves, and then someone came in and bought it, and then they kind of added their spin to it. And their spin was, making sure that the wood that they got was sustainable. That was really important to them. And then they worked it for another 10, 15 years. And then the newest owners that came in and bought it said, okay, look, sustainability, you've got that. For those that's important too, but we make musical instruments and we bring the love to Breedlove, right? Yeah. And so had a chance to chat with the owner for a little bit yesterday, and it was just, amazing to see. Now they're in their 3rd generation of ownership, right? Got to see a husband and wife, basically sole proprietor of a baked goods company, Red Plate Foods, and all they do are hypoallergenic, gluten-free, allergen-free foods. And they built this thing up from working 24 hours a day in their kitchen at home, right? People coming in and working, got to hear their story. It was amazing to hear. And then I don't know if you've heard of a company called Heli Ladder here in town.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Dan.
So I got to hear his story, and what a remarkable story. It was literally built out of necessity, right? And now this is something where he's getting military contracts. He's got hospital contracts. He made something that was necessary for him, and then he thought, hey, I can build this. Well, and he even said yesterday, he's getting a little long in the tooth. But he's got a great product with a great track record, great reputation, right? That sounds to me like someone, and I'm not saying you guys should go out and buy him. I think he's still got plans to work for quite a bit longer, but you find these people that have built something, and then maybe they're just aging out, or they want to try something new.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm getting tired of doing mortgages, so let's draw up the paperwork. You guys can get in.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, so let's do some rapid fire questions. James, your favorite business book?
Big Rockefeller fan. There's a book. I think it's called 38 Letters to My Son by John Rockefeller.
Okay,
and they're actual letters that he wrote his son over 20 years. And I don't think there was any intent to ever publish them, but they've been published, and there's just fantastic. Every letter is so insightful.
Okay.
It's awesome. Yeah. Got to read it.
Okay. I'm going to have to read that one. I love reading books. I was never much of a book reader until I started this company. And then I realized I'm not I'm not much of a leader if
Yeah.
I'm not trying to work on myself,
Yeah.
if I'm not trying to improve myself and being the best version at the top. Because what you said earlier is a company is going to reflect ownership, right? It's
Yep.
going to reflect, it's from the top
100%.
trickles down. And that's why, our slogan here on the boss's office is it's lonely at the top. It really is. But everyone's looking at leadership, right? For that energy and what are we doing next?
Yeah.
And how you create that culture, it just permeates through the rest of the company.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I've worked for companies that had a real heavy drinking culture, and it was just party, party, party. Oh, we'll work hard for a couple hours and then we'll party, and
Yeah.
those kind of fizzle out. I've worked for good bosses, bad bosses, you
Mhm.
name it. Okay, Jordan, what's the worst business advice you ever got?
Okay. Maybe this is just the worst tagline. Maybe it's not business advice, but we hear this all the time is we'll come across a problem or a challenge and somebody will say that they're going to continue to monitor the situation or, we should just definitely keep our eyes on the situation and monitor the situation.
Where is Rocky?
Cannot stand.
Oh, that's Rocky's favorite line.
Cannot stand that one because it's like we are either going to not do anything about it and move on and do something else, or we are going to fix this problem. Those are the two options, but we are not going to stand by because that does nobody any good. So
I think inaction drives me absolutely crazy.
bananas, yeah.
Yeah. Make a decision, move forward.
Yeah.
And if you made the wrong decision, then make another decision to get yourself back on course.
100%.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. One company you'd love to own. Doesn't have to be by name, but how about like an industry? What kind of one company you'd love to own?
Something super, super niche, like that Hella Ladder is a great example,
Mhm.
right? Here's a product that is just incredibly important. There's a huge need for it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a niche. No one
Right.
else is doing it. And that's pretty incredible. And I think that's the kind of company where I feel like people who work there are going to get really behind the mission. They're going to start to believe in
Yeah.
the product, right? Because you're
Yeah.
providing this incredibly useful and needed product. So I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah. Something that's needed. I love it. Oh, here's a great question for you. All right. Ego or fear, which one gets in the way the most?
For us, it's ego. I don't think we really fear much at this point. I think it's got to be ego for us.
That's the biggest thing that I think has made my company successful and has made other people's companies successful, especially when you have a tandem, right?
Mhm.
Where giving up a certain amount of control and seceding away from that ego, right?
Yeah.
Destroying that ego. I mean, we all have egos.
Yeah.
Anyone who says, "Oh, I don't have an ego," or
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, anyone who says, "Oh, I'm laid back."
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody
I'm
thinks
super
they're-
humble.
Everybody thinks they're humble. Everybody thinks they're laid back. Nobody thinks they have an ego.
Yeah.
The truth is, even my grandma has an ego.
Yeah.
We all have an ego, and learning to accept the slight possibility that I might just be wrong,
Yeah.
took a lot,
Mm.
right? So when I started this company, I was 6 months in, and I was pulling all the levers, and I was going to burnout real quick.
Yeah.
And I realized, man, I need someone.
Yeah.
Like I can't do this all myself. I need
Mhm.
someone to pin it on. And Rocky's not here, and I'm going to make him listen to this episode just so he knows how much shit we talked about him while he wasn't here.
He sounds like a real piece of work.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
No, but one thing that's made us incredibly successful is Rocky and I both have big egos, but when it comes to making business decisions,
Yep.
we're able to put those aside and come back to the common good. And it sounds like that's something you guys are able to do.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's that phrase, do you want to be right or do you want to be rich?
Right.
So
Rich.
right.
Ah,
Right.
yeah. One of those two.
Yeah.
What's the hardest type of employee to manage?
Probably that ego that you just talked about. Somebody who just can't get out of their own way.
Mm-hmm.
They think the world revolves around them. They think they're the main character in the story. They have trouble working with others. They at the end of the day, they're just kind of selfish in all their actions.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it all the time. You see it all the time.
Oh yeah.
That's a tough employee. Skills you can train. leadership you can coach, but there's some personality traits that, you're just not really going to get past.
Attitude.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably the toughest for me is managing attitude.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, one thing that I tell my employees, especially if they're having something going on in their personal life and they bring it to work and their work life suffers, is I will say, the guy that reads the news, right?
Yep.
Before he got to work, he found out that his dog had terminal cancer, his wife was cheating on him, and he owes Uncle Sam $50,000. And you know what he does? He still shows up and he reads the news. That's professionalism.
Mhm.
So you suit up and you show up.
Yeah.
If your personal life is making it to where you cannot work, don't work,
Mhm.
right? Take
Yeah.
time off. That's what it's there for. FMLA, that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
And so my expectations are when people are here, they are on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have bad days, right? I have bad days and it rolls downhill. And so it's just being constantly aware of that is really important. And I'm really lucky. The people that I have working for me, they're loyal, they're hardworking, and they all want to just come in and RTFS.
Yeah.
And that's what my partner Danica says, ready to fucking slay.
Yes.
Every
RTFS.
single day is
That's
hashtag RTFS, right? That is our mission. That is our slogan. We come up and we are ready to kick ass and take names.
Common conventional leadership wisdom is that as the leader, extreme ownership, right?
Mhm.
Like, what can I do? What have I not done to help this person be more successful? Help
Right.
them with their attitude, help them with their personal life. I don't buy into that anymore. I think at some point, the person on the other side of the table has to take ownership for their shit,
Yeah, absolutely.
And as leaders, we're going to do everything we can, but there comes a point where it's like, hey, the return on my time is no longer there. So if you're not going to take ownership of your personality, your workability, your likability, then you're gone.
Yeah.
You don't fit here.
Yeah. Quick. Some of the best advice that I ever got was be slow to hire and quick to fire. And I want to be so quick to hire, man. We got a job opening. We need to fill it. We need to fill it. We need to fill it.
Yeah.
And that is something I've just had to learn by mistake.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, I do not recommend nepotism. Friends and family.
Oh,
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Working with friends and family, I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Yep. Brutal. All right, you guys, this episode has been brought to you by Boss Mortgage. At Boss Mortgage, we believe that leadership matters, whether you're buying your first home, scaling a business, building wealth, or investing in your future. We're a direct mortgage lender licensed in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, California, Arizona, Montana, and Colorado. Our team specializes in conventional VA, FHA, jumbo, investor loans, and innovative affordability programs like our exclusive Game Changer loan. If you want to own your home like a boss, we've got your back. Boss Mortgage NMLS 254-7821. You guys, this was a lot of fun. There's a lot of people that hear term like acquisitions and private equity and assume that it's all spreadsheets and finance, but you guys prove that you come in, you get your hands dirty, and you take real ownership.
Yep.
So I don't know that I could call you private equity. I think
Please don't.
Please don't.
I think I just have to call you guys really passionate entrepreneurs.
Love it.
Yeah. So thank you. This has been another episode of The Boss's Office, where it's lonely at the top.